It's time for the word of the week, and this week's word is deesis. Deesis means prayer, but it is a particular kind of prayer. It's a fervent supplication or plea or entreaty to God. There's another word for prayer, which is proseuche, and proseuche has more to do with the posture of prayer or the act of praying, whereas deesis is about the content of the prayer or its sort of emotional intent. It's pleading for something. It's heartfelt pouring out of a desire for someone, because it comes from the word deomai, which is the verb deomai, which means I desire or I wish, right? So this is a plea for your hopes and dreams and desires. And by the New Testament period, it's almost exclusively applied to a fervent plea to God, or at least to some deity if it's outside the New Testament. So bear that in mind as we go forward. Deesis is the content of prayer. It's a supplication or an entreaty. And proseuche is the act of praying, normally typified by a prostrate posture. Prostrate, not prostate. Laying down on your face, falling at the feet of a powerful being in order to express homage, worship, etc., etc. So let's look at some examples. First up, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 18a. Praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. So we get a good fleshing out of the contrast between the two words here. The first occurrence, proseuchomenoi, is a participle from proseuchomai, and it is while praying. So while in the act of praying, we're told at all times in the Spirit with all prayer, proseuches, and supplication, deeseos. So both in the physical act and in the content and the emotional content of what the prayer is, it should be happening at all times in the Spirit. Both the physical act and the fervent pleas are to typify the life of the believers, according to Paul writing to the church in Ephesus. Let's carry on and take a look at Luke chapter 2, verses 36 through 38. And there was a prophetess, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel, of the tribe of Asher. She was advanced in years, having lived with her husband 7 years from when she was a virgin, and then as a widow until she was 84. I want to pause for a second there. So she got married as a young woman, was married for 7 years, then her husband died. She lives to 84, so she spends decades, many decades, living as a widow. She did not depart from the temple, worshiping with fasting and prayer, deesesin, night and day, and coming up at that very hour, she began to give thanks to God and to speak of him to all who were waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. So what do we know about Anna, the prophetess? We know that she spent decades dedicated to fasting and prayer, not proseuche, not dedicated to the posture of praying, but dedicated to pleading with God for the redemption of Jerusalem. That's what we're told in the rest, in the end of verse 38. So her supplications for the redemption of Jerusalem typify the life she lived from the time when her husband died while she was still a young woman until she was 84. Let's carry on and go to 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 12. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer, but the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. So his ears are open to their prayer is deesin, our word of the week, not proseuche. Why? Because proseuche has the potential to be pro forma. It can just be the routine act of blurting out, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep, without even thinking about it. You've said it so many times you're not even thinking about it. Or like saying grace over a meal where you're expected to do so socially, but you're not even thinking about it. But what Peter writes is, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their fervent pleas that come from the heart and are an expression of their hopes and desires for themselves, for others, for the kingdom, for justice, for mercy, etc., etc. Let's look at one more. This is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 3. I thank God whom I serve, as did my ancestors, with a clear conscience, as I remember you constantly in my prayers, tais deesesin, night and day. So the writer wants Timothy to know that when he's offering up his prayers, if this is the Timothy who is the bishop of Ephesus, and if this writer is Paul, he pleads to God for the well-being and success of Timothy as the bishop of Ephesus. It's not just a posture, it's the pouring out of his heart in a plea fervently to God to bless and care for and watch over Timothy. So there it is, our word of the week, deesis, a prayer of supplication or entreaty, a fervent plea, always to God in the New Testament, or to a God outside the New Testament when we get to the Koine period. Earlier on in classical Greek, it could simply be a plea from one person to another. But by the time we get to the first century, it is a fervent plea to a God who has the ability to hear and to respond to the deep needs, wants, and hopes and dreams of those praying to that God. So thanks again. I hope that was good for you. If it was, please let me know in the feedback. And until next time, Charis Kai Reine Humin, grace and peace to you.